Now, I would argue that all this destruction is being caused by less than 100 people, the leaders of the TPLF that really chose violence to settle their differences, that declared the war on November 3rd, that called the ceasefire in June a sick joke. And even right now, when there was a door opening for peace, that they're going back on the offense because they are trying to save their own seat of power. And this must be very clear for the international community, for the United States, and that this is all the Horn of Africa wants, the people of Ethiopia, the people of Africa. And quite frankly, the American people want peace. The American people want their government to be part of peace, not supporting an organization, an entity, a criminal entity that is being led by this people that have no regard for human life. And unfortunately, they're dragging the United States down the dirt with them. And it is just really mind-boggling for me how this administration just does not see that.
Yeah, it's certainly mind-boggling. There's really no logic to it. I mean, at this point, regardless of where they thought things were going to go, TPLF is a bad bet. It's a bad bet for the country. It's a bad bet for Tigray. I was surprised but not surprised to see that even Tigray TV was recently admitting about 300,000 people have died in this war. Of course, they're not specifically attributing it to this war. They left it sort of open-ended and were focusing a lot of their energy at the prime minister. But what that tells me is, even by their own admission, 300,000 people have potentially died in Tigray. That is insane. That is just, when we think about that number, and I've heard estimates that are even greater than that, it doesn't make sense that this entity that is willing to drag their people literally into the ground can be taken seriously, which brings us to some of the, and some of this is speculation in terms of, I believe they didn't call it negotiations, but talks. Debretsion was on BBC recently and said that he is speaking with the government, whether through a mediator or directly. There's a sense that the Ethiopian government is talking to somebody that is some entity that is considered a representative in Tigray. And I think the fear for some people is that TPLF will get a seat at the table. I personally do not think that's going to happen. I just don't think the entire Horn of Africa would have it. There's too much damage done. That it sets a horrific precedent. I think is very different than some of the releases that we saw in early January, when you're talking about somebody that's not in that region, that's aging and sick, as complicated as that release was. For those that are in Tigray, that are leading this war, to be able to then get a seat at the table for any sort of power, I just don't think it's possible. What are you gathering from what you've heard and read?
There is absolutely no future for the TPLF in the Horn of Africa, absolutely none. And the future of the new Ethiopia will not have a place for that. The people of Ethiopia will not have it any other way. Look, 27 years of torture, 27 years of gross human rights violation. This was an entity that had one of the worst human rights record in the world. The reason why so many of us are in the diaspora is we left Ethiopia because of the TPLF. And when is enough enough? Isn't 3 decades of power enough? And this totalitarian regime has been removed from power. The people have said enough. They want to move on. The TPLF has been a source of pain, not just for Ethiopia, but for Eritrea, for Somalia, for the whole region, right? And a new dawn is upon the Horn of Africa right now. And whether the United States or the Western government, whoever is pushing the TPLF, they're not going to win. The TPLF is done, right? So the notion that there's going to be some kind of a negotiation, and even if there is a negotiation, it is not going to mean that the TPLF will come back as a legit entity. I say that confidently because the people, 140 million people, have said enough, have said no more to this entity, and you've seen the backlash that has come. I mean, to be frank, the massive backlash that we witnessed when Subhat Naga was released from prison, right? That is just a sign of where the people are. That was a backlash throughout the Horn, not just in Ethiopia. So there's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of disinformation that's coming out, especially from the TPLF, where they're trying to make themselves more visible or more important than they are. But at this point, TPLF is in a position where they can no longer fight their way out. There has been a military solution. They have been defeated militarily. They have been defeated in public opinion. The world has seen their true color, and the devastation they left behind in Amhara and Afar is just being seen by the world. So the world knows who the aggressor is. The world now knows who's seeking peace, right? The truth has come out. So there's absolutely no way, if there is any kind of negotiation, it should be a negotiation for the leaders of the TPLF to disarm and to surrender.
Yeah, and we actually don't know what the people in Tigray think either, right? They've been under this war for 15 plus months. There are parents who have not seen their kids. There are areas that are not getting the aid that they need, especially as this war continues on, and that at this point, there is a humanitarian crisis in Tigray. I spoke with an official that says they're also concerned about the people there because this is really making it difficult for aid to get to certain places that it needs to. And it's people that were already on safety nets before. And now during this war, there are people that are dying, not just as a direct result of the war. So it's, I no longer really try to speak to the diaspora who claim to be advocates in that region. But, I just wonder if that's what's going to take, because I think the U.S. sort of not saying anything is somewhat co-signing what's happening in the North. And then the diaspora as a whole, at least in terms of those that feel like they have connections to Tigray, are also just kind of living on this hope that the U.S. or somebody's going to come in and save them. And then another shift I saw. Hey, everybody, if you like what you see, please hit subscribe to this channel and share with your friends who you think will like this content too. Thank you so much for your support.